Welcome to Just a Thought, a podcast for women who've turned self-reflection into a lifestyle. Around here, we get into the messy stuff, mental health, connection, and the daily chaos of being a human. It's kind of like therapy, but with some sarcasm and fewer co-pays. I'm your host, Pia James, and every week we'll obsess over one subject we know best, ourselves, because if you're going to spiral, why not make it about yourself? This is Just a Thought. Welcome to Just a Thought. I'm your host, Pia. Today we have our guest, Dr. Kristen, who is a neuropathic psychotherapist out in Canada. Did I say that right, Dr. Kristen?
Naturopathic doctor, but it was very close, and a psychotherapist. It's all good.
Yes, my words are twisting this morning. My throat is dry, but we're here, and I'm just so elated that you're with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love listening to your podcast, and I'm really excited to be with you.
Well, thank you. I just want to share a little bit with the audience about your background. She comes with a blended background from holistic medicine to psychotherapy to help women feel more grounded, resilient, and energetic. She works with everything from mental health, hormone balance, to family wellness, where women can find support in one place. And I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, we do too.
I know that process probably was, a lot. Can you just tell us a little bit about what made you combine therapy with neuropathic?
I mean, originally I became a naturopath because I loved the idea of people feeling empowered in how they approach their health, learning about nutrition, making decisions that work for them around their lifestyle and what they did with their body. It just organically felt like such a great fit. And then I started practicing and realized that mental health was integral to how we're doing, that I couldn't just support people physically. I really had to take on supporting them mental, emotionally as well. So then I dragged my ass back to school, became a psychotherapist, and now I do both in a blended way.
Can you just tell us a little bit how you merge the two together and how your company helps women in your community?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, we formed a space where women can come and address all sorts of mental emotional needs, not just by me, but by other amazing practitioners. We have bodywork practitioners, we have other mental health care practitioners, massage, physio, whatever it is that someone might be needing. And really, when they come, we try and sort of individualize whatever approach is going to make the most sense for them based on what they're experiencing at the time, their needs, their time or financial constraints. So it's pretty individualized care at Thrive, which is, sort of the model and what we strive for.
I love neuropath. You practice getting to the root cause of the problem instead of patching things up. When you go to a physician, they don't solve the problem, they patch the problem. So can you just give us a little bit insight to what that actually entails with getting to the root?
That's a big question.
You can break it up any way you want to.
Well, no, one of the core principles of naturopathic medicine is to look and address the root cause. So, you're spot on in terms of what sort of differentiates it from some other more allopathic approaches to health. When I think about working with someone and the idea of finding the root cause, it's looking at someone as a whole being. So they come in, and it's one of the reasons I love blending physical care with mental health care, because sometimes someone's got an ache and a pain, and at its root, it's the pain they're carrying physically about the life they're living. Sometimes it's because they physically torn a tendon, right? They're very different root causes. And so it's the idea of looking at someone not to predetermine what we think is happening for them, but to get curious with them so that we uncover what's underneath.
I know that most people are not aware of taking that holistic route. Yes, it may cost a little bit more money, but they take more care with their clients. They're sitting down having a conversation with you. They really want to get to know you. If you are aware of your body sensations, are you aware of different changes in your environment that may have had caused this reaction? When I went down my wellness journey, I went in deep. One of the things that I actually wound up studying was how a lot of mental health symptoms are linked to how we are eating, how we are responding to food and different things of that nature. I guess like the universe just put me in this little bubble and was like, you're going this way.
I love that. That's amazing. And probably like so cool for you to get an opportunity to really understand yourself in a new way, kind of like reflecting does and some of the other stuff we're talking about today.
Yes, that's what self reflection is all about. Learning who you are in all different dynamics of your life at different frames and times of your life. And it doesn't mean that you are broken or you need to be fixed. It's you having a continuation of understanding of who you are and who you are becoming and how you transition from one stage of your life to another part of your life. And like I said, I love that you guys integrate both, that you are providing a safe space for women to not only meet their physical needs, but also to meet their mental needs. Because we are under a lot of pressure with caregiving, with work, even with our own personal lives and our sister circles, we are carrying so much. So, can you just give us a little bit of insight into your story about when you went to school and your support system when you were, going out and carving this wonderful path for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think I learned through a lot of not doing what I needed to do because I actually sort of, we all have our stories, and my story started with I think I have to be strong all the time. And, not asking for support, not knowing how to lean in and use love and use community. Yeah, you hear me. I got that, right? Takes one to know one. And so actually, I was a single mom when I was trying to and felt really drawn to do my psychotherapy training and grow and expand my mental health understanding. And I absolutely could not do that without support. There weren't enough hours in the days, there weren't enough hands to feed my daughter. And I was sort of forced, thankfully, to realize that without help, I couldn't be who I wanted to be. And that was a pretty cool transition.
See, I love that moment when you realize for yourself that you needed to actually ask for help in order to be the best version in school and also for your children and for yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
It's,
was deep.
they thank you. It and like so beautiful to be able to live it, understand it in a way that now helps me feel I can really authentically support others in that. In, learning it's not about being perfect, learning it's not about understanding we don't have to have it right. We have to support ourselves in a way that lets us be vulnerable, be human, and have needs and get them met ideally in a healthy way.
Right. Because life be lifing. It's like today I had everything together, and then when I went to sit down and set up, it was like something was missing or I needed to add something. And life can make us feel what we have in the moment isn't enough. And we begin to extend outside of ourselves
Mhm.
looking for something. It's like, no, it's the outside world. You okay?
Absolutely. I know, I had such a giggle this morning. I go to dry my hair, and my hair dryer wasn't working, broke fully. I'm like, "Okay, I can do this, take a breath." I'm like, "Go to the store, you can get one, or you can put your hair back." But, like, in that moment, right, when, as you say, life be lifing, you have this instinct to rage out or to feel we can't do rather than to kinda go inward and say, "Okay, resiliency, what do we got for us here?" And that's such a cool shift to make. It's not easy and it's a practice, but it's unbelievable what it offers you.
Yes, that's why around here we make self-reflection a lifestyle, right?
I love
Okay.
that. Love
Because
that.
thank you. There's so much language when it comes to mental health, when it comes to psychology, and it all can feel overwhelming because this person is a guru, this person is an expert, this person is a clinical psychologist, this person is a social worker, and it's so much. But the root of it, at least from my personal experience, is just having an understanding of yourself and being able to connect with you. Just like you use the example of the hair dryer went out. Okay, do I really want to throw a bitch fit? Or can I throw a bitch fit and still say the world is not against me, and then they can actually plan to move forward.
Absolutely. And I love what you just said because one, we're talking about externalizing, right? That's self-reflection, the process of externalizing a little bit. Okay, girl, do I want to have a bitch fit? What do I want to do here? What's going to help me most? So that we gain perspective and support. It's the coolest thing. And it makes so much more available to us because I can have a feeling, I can see it, I can have an experience, and I don't have to act from it necessarily, right? I can honor it. I don't have to pretend it's not there. I don't have to say everything's great all the time, but I still get to determine what version of me is going to take the next step. what version of me is going to take the next action. And I think that's super cool.
That is. I know that a lot of people are afraid of therapy.
Hmm.
From your perspective, when your clients come in or when women come in, what do they say when they first sit down with you?
Totally. Probably depends on who they are and what their experience with therapy has been, right? I have people that are like, all right, I'm giving this a go, but I don't believe this is going to help me. I have some people that come in, they're like, save me, right? It's a whole spectrum of what people expect and think. And one of my core beliefs truly as a therapist is it's got to be a good fit, right? Like it has to be an organic connection. I joke with a lot of my clients. I'm like, kind of like dating, right? I can be amazing, you can be amazing, and we may not be a great fit together. So, that's one piece. And the other is, I think, helping to dismantle whatever false ideas people may have about therapy, right? Like, I'm not giving you advice. I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'm not judging you. I'm holding your hand to help you get curious about yourself and maybe see things in new or different ways so that you can have whatever you want out of life that maybe you're having trouble accessing now.
Listen, it's for the girls. It's for the girlies because this morning I was like, okay, let me go and hear the audience and what they're saying on social media to try to bring it all in. And I love that you talked about, is this a fit? Because a lot of times when I'm on a feed, a lot of people like, well, how do you pick a therapist? How do you pick a therapist? What would you say to that curious person that's on a screen and I'm like, I need a therapist, but I don't know where to start? What question would you have them pose to themselves?
Probably one that's important is, where am I feeling stuck right now? Right? Where do I want support? Because if it's about a relationship challenge or relationship challenges in general, right? Some people struggle in relationship, bosses, friends. So is it relationships I find hard? Is it physical anxiety that's manifesting and raging in me? And I really want to help kind of get new understanding of how to support myself. Is it my own relationship with myself? Am I really struggling with, negative self belief, self talk? If I know where I'm struggling, I might have a better opportunity to kind of look at the different therapists that might be available and say, do you specialize in this stuff? Do you have experience in this area? Do you see the world through a lens that might work for me? I think that would maybe be one place I'd start.
Now, this is going to be a loaded question.
Okay, I'm in.
As you know, there are not that many minority therapists. From your perspective, do you feel as though that's important for the client or it has no barrier or it varies?
I think it depends again, and it sounds like a cop out answer, but I really do. I think it depends on the client's experience and the therapist's experience, right? Like, you know, as a white woman, there are experiences I don't have in the world as someone who lives in Canada, who I am. But I can meet a client in a moment and say, I have no idea what that feels like, but holy shit, my heart feels really heavy right now, or whatever it is that I'm experiencing. Does that build a bridge between us in our different experiences? Maybe somewhat, because it's still being seen by your therapist. And that to me is the piece, right? Does my therapist see me in a way that I need to be seen to heal?
Right. The reason why I asked you that question is the fact that I'm a minority, right? We are both a minority. You're a minority because you're a woman.
Yeah,
I'm a minority because
I
I'm a woman
am.
and I'm black, right? And I find that, through social media and through just speaking to people within the community, that tends to hold them up why they don't go get help.
Mm.
That they feel like this other is not going to understand my experience. I guess I have to sit here in silence and suffer, right?
And I mean, I get that, right? Even as a woman, like you say, the piece that I can, that can resonate is, are you going to get my experience because you haven't lived my life? Everyone's experience is their own. And if you can meet with someone who is open to hearing you, to seeing you, to connecting to your experience, the potential for enlightenment and bonding and the beauty of being human, I think, is what exists. And if that's not there because someone isn't able to open their eyes or to see me or to hear me, then I remain an island. And that's lonely. Say this pretty directly. if you are working like as a therapist, I feel an obligation to try and be informed and understand and to learn and to grow. It's not my client's job to educate me about their experience. I mean, I have to, everyone's is different, but so that is also a part is, am I working with someone who's, I don't know, I don't want to use a term that I don't like, who gives a shit about the fact that other people have different experiences and that aren't trying to form other into their lens, but rather to try to see the other's lens. And that's a very different approach.
I love the fact that you use educate because a lot of times as a minority, a woman, that's how we essentially are feeling that we have to go in here and we have to educate you. That's going to be work. I'm supposed to be getting help, but I'm not getting help because I'm not spending all this time educating you. And so it
Absolutely.
then feels like I now have to nurture your feelings over my own. And so now I don't want to deal with this. So I'd
Mm.
rather sit with my own discomfort versus then have to go in here and then do all this educating and teaching that I may not necessarily have the language to even articulate to you just yet.
Yeah.
So I love that you pinpointed that.
Yeah, and because I think, you know, for for someone who experiences life as a minority or being othered or truly actually that also comes up a lot in trauma work, right? I don't know even how to nor do I want to try to educate you about the experience of my trauma. And in truth, good therapy should never feel that way. It should feel like a safe container where you can be. You're not there to work, you're there to be supported. And that's an important distinguisher, I think.
I love your full lens is not one sided, that just by you articulating your experience and using the word educated, if I was a client and I was screening you, because yes, I will screen you, it's going to feel like an interview. And I'm going to tell you that from the beginning. Okay. But the
I
fact
like
that
that you'd be open about it.
But the fact that you use language that makes me feel safe, it shows me that you've had an experience or at least an understanding that there is a difference and that you don't want me to feel this way. Now I can then proceed to sit down and say, okay, now my next issue is this. Do you have experience in that? So I love that openness that you have. I'm pretty sure it's even with your, not even with your other practitioners that's underneath you, right? Having that safe space and giving them the tools that they need for different clients that they may see day to day. So good
Absolutely.
work.
It's yeah, thank you. It's at its essence of healing in my own opinion, right? My philosophy is to heal and to be healed is the process of being safe, to be self with expression, with curiosity, with interest. And so, that trust and understanding piece has to be at the base. It has to be at the bottom.
Yes, it does. It's very important. So there's been an article that went out, I want to say, are you familiar with Rutgers University?
Yes.
Okay, so here in the States, Rutgers University is a big, well-known state school. They did a
Yeah.
study during after COVID around 2023 about how job loss in the time frame is a form of trauma. Can you speak?
I'm thinking in a pretty therapeutic way about it. But I hadn't read the article, so that's my first disclosure. But when I hear you speak to it, I think what I understand is anything that breaks at a root of my understanding of self can and is experienced as a trauma. So if my place in life, in my job, in my career, in what I do for work is ripped away or there was a lot of job loss during COVID and after COVID and there's been a lot of kind of disruption to our world in the last 5 6 years, and so for a lot of people things very suddenly have changed that don't connect to their sense of self as they know themselves in that moment. That's a trauma. And learning to live through that, to evolve with it, to grow from it would be the healing through working with the trauma. But yeah, that's a trauma. Absolutely. Like being left suddenly by someone we love or by losing someone that we, to grieve and have someone pass who we love suddenly. Those are all traumas. They're sudden fractures in how we understand our space in the world. It's real.
It is. So it is. Oh gosh. So, everybody is self-care with these luxury hotels, luxury baths, these luxury face masks. It's like self-care has become a luxury experience. And it's
Uh,
gotten away from the actual meaning. When your clients are coming in and they're asking you, well, how do I have a routine for my self-care to make sure that my mental and emotional wellness is safe or healthy? How do you help them navigate that?
yeah. To start with, I think, self care, I love the way you talk about it. There's a luxury, element to self care should we go down that path. But at its core, self care is I matter, right? And that can be lived and done in so many different ways. It can be by learning to say no. That's self care. It can be by taking a moment to actually ask yourself, what do I need right now? Do I need to take a breath? Do I need to scream into this pillow? That's all self care. It doesn't have to be red light therapy masks and hot tubs. It can actually be, what do I live day to day that reinforces the fact that I matter?
Right. Self care varies. I would say, I want to add to that, that self care varies from person to person. It's not supposed to be something that is glamorized. So it's like I can go spend $400 at the spa for the day, and you have to go to Groupon and get the $20 midnight special, right? And it's creating this whole uproar with people, and that's also hindering the self, understanding the
Yeah.
self. And if you are actually taking care of yourself in the right way because you're measuring your experience to someone else. And so you tend to get away from the fact of what this is. It's tending to you and making sure that you are okay, as you said. And I know you're not big on social media, but now that I'm in this space, I have to hear what the people are saying. So on there, people are, I mean, I see grown people. We're not talking about 20 years. We're talking in between 30 and 40, and sometimes 50-year-olds, really in mental distress because they can't go and spend $95 on just a foot pedicure or go
Yeah.
spend $250 to go sit in a sauna. Really? Turn your shower on to hot, sit outside and create your own steam. Okay?
Absolutely.
Get creative with it.
Yeah, you can, cold therapy, you can go if I live in Canada. I can go sit in the snow and get what my body needs. I don't have to go to one of these Scandinav spas that have the cold plunges necessarily. And the truth is I love and have access to privilege in my own life, but I can recognize that my practice of self-care that I gain, and I post about it in my Instagram page quite a lot, that I gain the most benefit from is my quiet time in nature. I have these really cool paths near me, and I make intentional time to go there because there's no one demanding of me. There's no pressure. I can be with self, and it gives me the opportunity to say, yeah, I matter. What I'm thinking about matters. My time to reflect and to ground and to be with myself matters. And it costs me nothing. It's like, it's wild, right?
Right. When I get to not have my money go to things that I can actually do for myself, I feel more value in that. My favorite self care, and I will always stick to this, is journaling. When I wake up in the morning and I don't allow everybody, all the other distractions, no cell phone, nothing is on. It's just me and the journal. It's me and my spirit. It's me and the element of my plant babies, and I'm allowing that energy for them to just breathe and life into me and ground me. And it
It's
necessarily doesn't
beautiful.
have to be that deep for other people, but for me, I got a lot going on here. I'm getting, I'm on a podcast, I'm writing a book. All these things are happening, life is moving, and then I'm hearing other people's disasters or hardship. And I'm an empath, so that can be an emotional heavy blanket. So
Absolutely.
as a professional in the mental health space, how important is it for other practitioners to go seek help because they need help because they feel the burden of their clients' everyday, problems?
Oh yeah. And I sort of connect with myself as an empath also. And so yeah, like the weight of the world of others of what we experience is real. And I always laugh because I think, I put a lot of energy into self-care, into time for self to reflect, to take, I call it filling my gas tank, right? It's like I drive far every day. I got to keep refilling that gas tank. And it is important self care for therapists, for health practitioners. I mean, for everyone. But for people who hold space for others really regularly, yeah, we got to keep doing our own work or you burn out. And burnout is a real thing.
Listen, I always say a therapist need a therapist.
Oh, yeah. Love mine.
Listen, hey, right? Shout out to them.
Absolutely.
Everybody around me is always like, Pia, I want you to go and get your license as a therapist. You would be so good at it. And I'm like, listen, I counsel people from the spiritual aspect of it. I'm like, my church, I got it. In my early 20s, I was afforded to be around women who were, that did counseling for marriages, for relationships, for every day to day issues that women go through. They will listen to me tell other women things that was my age, because when you're in a spiritual setting, they group you with your age category, and they
Yeah.
will be like, "Pia, you can't say that, okay? You can't tell the person this. You just gave them straight to the answer and think that they're thinking as you're thinking, that you're doing as you're doing. No, you need to be gentle. You have to listen. You don't have to have an opinion." And all these different things that these women have taught me, and I'm so grateful that they was able to teach me that,
Yeah. It's beautiful.
because I was rough in the beginning, honey.
Well,
Really, I was rough.
and yeah, but that's also because kind of like what we were talking about earlier, right? That was part of how you probably moved yourself through the world, right? So, you know, we have a tough time being gentle with others when we haven't yet figured out how to really be gentle with ourselves.
Right, and that takes a lot of practice, like, a lot. That's the thing, when I was in this, setting, I was also learning about this for myself. Like, I was counseling other people spiritually, right? And I'm counseling myself, and I'm like, "Okay, this is a lot." I'm doing it at the same time that I'm in the height of I suffer from depression,
Oh,
and I was at the height of that. And then still helping these other people. And, in the spiritual world, they're like, God sent you this mission. It's okay. Keep going. And it's like, well, can God come help me? Because it's heavy laden.
absolutely.
It's heavy. It's a
Absolutely.
it's a lot of work. So speed it up to today. I'm like, I can use my gift another way. Not in a
Hmm.
way with one-on-one sessions, because I realize it takes so much out of you. It does. And you have to the replenish time is double that. Like,
Yeah.
the audience don't realize that. They think like, well, the therapist is just gonna come in here and everything is like, no, honey. Okay. They done heard some things and they gotta reprocess and make sure it didn't trigger their inner child and get it together. Like, hold on, let me not take this into my household. Like, it's a lot of like shifting that you have to do before you even walk through the door of your own house. So
Absolutely.
for me, it's like, okay, honey, I'm gonna have to just help you another way. This podcast, the book, there you go. But you cannot get me to be a licensed therapist to save my life. I love people like Dr. Kristen. Shout out to you.
I love that you're talking though about the fact that we can have innate capacity and choose where we use it in our lives, right? Like, and I learned the hard way through some really bad choices in men that I don't have to use my healing desires in all the areas of my life, right? I can choose to be around people that don't need me in that way. And similar to you, that, we don't have to do one on one work. We can use our strengths and gifts and I call them superpowers in lots of different ways in this life. And even in terms of with ourselves, right? I can be really loving and can choose to use that in how I deal with my own self day to day. I don't have to always be putting it into the world if I don't want to in a moment.
Right. Because listen, the jury is out with social media, okay? They are constantly promoting, you need to tell your story, you need to do this, you need to do it this way. And it's like, no, I get to have freedom of choice. And I understand that. And it might not be conducive in this space, it may be conducive somewhere else.
Absolutely. And I think we spoke about this earlier, right? Like I'm with you on social media and the jury being out. I love the access to information. I love the access to perspective, to data, to experiences that we might not otherwise have access to. But like, there is not a one size fits all approach to being alive. And I hate that people come to me, and you probably experience the same, feeling that they're not doing it right or comparing to others or like this constant, well, what's happening in their lane? Or they're telling me I'll be happy if I use luxury self care and I can't access it. So therefore, I can't have the life I want. And that's bullshit.
Say it again, Dr. Kristen, for the people in the back that didn't hear it.
That's bullshit. It really is.
So how do you help the women that come in and they have that level of pressure? What is one tip that you normally send them out the door mindfully with?
I read this recently and I just liked it, right? That, your chapter 1 that you're in right now might be someone else's chapter 11. And so, be aware that what you see around you, you don't know what that person's done to get there. You can't compare where you're at with where other people are at because you may not be in the same stage of your growth, of your development, of your journey, of your evolution. So, that's one for sure. And in my direct way, I have a term I use with my clients, right? Stay in your own lane. Like what's happening in other people's lanes, that's their business. That's their stuff. But if I'm focused on my lane, if I get really clear on where am I at, what am I needing, what do I want, what step am I taking next, it's a lot more manageable than looking around and being like, well, how are they driving that car in that lane? And why do they have that luxury vehicle? And I'm here on my bike, right? It's like, okay, how do I focus on my bike and see what I can do to enjoy the ride a little more? I don't know. Is that I'm watching you giggle?
Dr. Kristen, say, I'm sorry, y'all. I don't mean to laugh, but some of it is funny. It's comical. It really is. And when they're talking, you're trying to be professional, listen, but in the inside, your tummy is giggling so hard. I always use the analogy of your reality bracket. Do you want that to be your reality bracket? And if they tell me yes, I go, okay, so how do you expect to get this in this time frame? Because we have to assess your reality bracket, right?
Yeah.
Not attend to somebody else's grass, your real reality, not fantasy, because that's a fantasy. I'm going to bring you back into the centeredness of yourself. So it's always funny. You get, at the time, they were like, you don't understand because you're not on social media. And I go, bing, 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 bing. Maybe that may be your sign to just get off. You can turn it off. It's the power of choice of turning something off that isn't healthy for you.
Absolutely. And, I post about it and believe strongly, right? Our minds are a bit like computers. And so what we're listening to, what we're surrounding ourselves with, what we put energy into is what we start to believe about our world, about ourselves, about our success or not. So yeah, like take breaks or be really intentional about the content you're consuming, right?
Right.
Because it matters.
It does. I will
That's
agree
why I
with you
love
there.
podcasts like yours, right? Like it's content that's healing, that's helpful, that's inspiring, that grows agency. It's not content that makes me feel like I'm failing or I'm not enough or I'm somehow sucking at life, right? Like it's not useful.
Right. It's allowing you to just take that moment and to really reflect and go, I didn't think about that for that moment, So detox, you guys, detox from social media. If I came in and I said to you, I need to detox from social media, what plan would you set in motion to help me navigate that and be committed to that?
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like those, age old, but they work sort of like SMART goal theory, right? Like, so get specific, how much time am I on right now and what would be my goal? And, and make it time measurable. Okay, I'm not going to go on for 3 hours every night when I'm normally on after work, or I'm, and then like you said, that's sort of like, what's the realistic time frame that I'm going to give myself. Because if I say I'm never doing that, no, that's never going to work, right? So it's okay. Could I try this for the week? That would, it's like, so be specific, pick a time frame. Either I'm not doing social media anymore in the mornings, or I'm going to still go on, I don't know, this app, but I'm getting off the other, or, so be specific, make it time measurable, make it realistic. So set a shorter time frame and say, then I'm going to reassess and see how I feel. And most of the time when people do, they come back and they go, God, I felt better, which is kind of the cool part, right?
Yes. I love that you said swipe one app out for another. I actually recently saw on Threads a young lady, she mentioned that she was like, I'm getting off of TikTok. I'm over it. I'm over it. And she was like, I am just going to be doing the reds. It is long form content and that's it. I don't want nobody pushing and promoting any kind of videos. I just need my mind to have time to just read. And I
Mhm.
love that for her. I love that she made that choice publicly because it can also set somebody else free or get somebody else to think different about their situation and switch one app out for another.
Absolutely. I like it also because it's kind of reaffirming, right? I don't have to think about things always in black or white, all or nothing. I can make moves into the gray that might work for me in a better way.
Now, for the girlies like myself who don't really dabble in the gray, how would you help them get to that part?
There'd probably be some exploration around why, right? What makes me pull to one end or the other. And that's the therapeutic exploration. But ultimately, I think the start would be to not think it's to not think of it as always to say, what if I try something that's a little more gray? What if I try this? And it's like, get curious about it because you're like, no, I don't do that. I'm all in or I'm all out. I have so many clients that will come in and say that to me. I'm like, okay, cool. You can still be all in or all out. But in this moment, do you want to try something different? In this moment, can you have an experience that's a little different just to see what it's like? And so we're kind
Right.
of nudging into newness when our instinct is always going to be to pull to what's familiar.
That part is true. We love
Mhm.
familiarity. It's the devil that we love, but we also hate him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like I said before, with it being so much, I want to say since COVID, there's been a lot of language around psychology, which is phenomenal.
Mhm.
But sometimes we can take a good thing and make it a bad thing. And
Mhm.
that's where we start hearing languages like, well, I'm trying to protect my mental health. Or other people feeling like, well, I don't need to be fixed. So where do you stand on both with I need to protect my mental health and I don't need to be fixed?
Yeah. When
I'm
someone talks about,
sorry.
they're big.
Yes, I'm
I, sh- I, sh-
sorry.
I, It's okay. I'm rolling with it. I'm like, I should have asked to see these questions before we spoke today. I need some time. No. When someone says to me, I need to protect my mental health, right? I mean, very therapist response, but the first thing I hear is, I haven't felt safe in my own boundaries. I don't feel that right? So I get really strong walled to be like, I got to protect my mental health when really what I'm saying is, I want to feel safe and feel that I have agency, that I have some ability to be um, the driver of my own car. And I don't trust that that's necessarily true. So, you know, working with your ability to really understand that can you make a life where you believe that you're listened to, that your needs can be met, that you can have a boundary so you feel safer to be more exploratory, right? That's kind of that piece. And the I don't need to be fixed. No, we don't need to be fixed. That's true. The truth is, and I love this idea, right? Growth isn't about being perfect. It's about learning to be our flaws and our challenges in a different way. So no, it's not about fixing ourselves. It's about learning to be ourselves differently. And that's a very different thing.
Go ahead, Dr. Kristen. Tell them again. Listen, when people be saying that, I'm like, well, you don't want to evolve? Do you want to
Yeah.
get curious to see what that's like? We do have 4 seasons. The earth
Mhm.
is still moving whether we choose to or not, right? So summer is not going to say, hey, winter, I don't like you. Goodbye. Fall is not going to say to spring, oh, I don't like you. Goodbye. It's not going to do that. So it's your choice. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. A And I love the way you talk about it because the more that I'm open to reflection, to seeing things in new ways, to seeing myself in different ways, to I don't do this because I feel like the flowy nature of being as we talk about it, but it means that I become more adaptive and resilient to move through life. And so it's a bit of a paradox, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to let go of myself. But the more I let go, the more of myself I can find. And that serves me as I kind of move through this tumultuous, ever changing life because it is.
yes, it's always evolving. It's always something happening. when they say the yin and the yang, sometimes you have more bad than good, and but yet the good did happen. You can't ignore it, so it happened. So therefore, technically, it's imbalanced, but you don't feel that in that moment. It may not always be the right psychological terms, but it's what feels right in your body in
Mhm.
that moment. Sometimes it's like maybe I can express it in music or I can express it through art. I can express it through all these other avenues that necessarily doesn't have a verbal language. It has a
Mhm.
nonverbal language, and that space is okay too. It's welcome.
Mhm.
Do you incorporate that in your practice where people can use other forms of art therapy? Because I know that that's kind of actually on the decline.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I am not an art therapist. There are people who really specialize in art therapy, but my original psychotherapy training was in Gestalt, which is an experiential relational therapy. So the idea of helping someone experience themselves with more support in different ways, like writing, drawing, creating, absolutely is part of the modality work that I do. So, might hand someone some, you know, pencil, crayons, and paper, and we go for it in a session, and it's awesome. I also think, as you were talking about it, embodied. So this is another on the rise, right? Somatic therapy, somatic work, because we can experience something in our head, we can experience it in a thought, we can experience it a feeling, but our body is also experiencing it energetically, physically. So practices that help us to feel connected to what our body is living can be really, really cool and useful too.
Right now, there's this debate between going to therapy and a performance impact coach is what I believe they call them. So this debate sparked because people are saying, well, when I go to therapy, they're not giving me any homework and I don't
Mhm.
know what to do. An impact coach would say, well, that's why you need to be coming to an impact coach. And this is why we charge so much because we give you the tools to then do dot, dot, dot. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think it depends on who you're, again, always, but depends on who you're working with, right? And the degree to which and the individualization of a what I believe is a true therapeutic approach is not one size fits all. So, I have people that come to me that are like, I am busy. This is my 1 hour that I have. Do not give me things to work on, homework, whatever. And then I have people that come to me, they're like, I want things to do, and have said to me, like, what I love about working with you, Kristen, is that you give me things that can be put as a practice, as a skill. Not, I don't like calling it homework, but things they can choose to take on in between sessions. I don't know. Does that make me an impact coach? Maybe I'm both. I don't know. But there are things that can be done between sessions. And if you're looking for that, talk to your therapist about it openly. They may very well have things they can support and give you.
You guys are gonna not like this because this is an unpopular opinion. And I don't know. I will say to that, an impact coach is somebody that you're outsourcing yourself with. You don't want to spend time with learning yourself. So I'd rather pay you to tell me about me. A therapist for the first time is holding space for you. That's something that you've never experienced. So of course
Mhm.
you're gonna feel a little bit uncomfortable because you never experienced where somebody's actually just hearing you and they want to feel that heaviness with you. That's a different
Mhm.
experience. Um,
Absolutely.
and on top of that, a therapist wants to hear, do you want to have a practice when you go home? Do you want to read a book? If you don't, that's okay too. But my job
Mhm.
is just to hold space for you because this is the first time that you've ever experienced this. And yes, it will come with a fee. And yes, the insurance companies are, they're trying to get there. They're lagging behind. But go to some of these therapists. Some of them will give you a sliding fee here in America.
Mhm.
Is
Yeah,
that the same thing in
absolutely.
Canada?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Sliding scales, we call them, right? If
Yes.
you if you don't have the means, see if someone is willing to work with you in a way that feels feasible for you.
I found my therapist on Psychology Today. I researched. I legit went through everybody's profile. I want to see a picture. So for any therapist that does not have a picture, please put a picture there, okay? I need to see. I need
Absolutely.
to see if there's some kind of connection from your picture. And some therapists they do um consultations, and
Right.
my therapist she had a 15-minute consultation, and there I was able to ask questions and, to see if it was a right fit. And even in that 15 minutes, we didn't get a lot covered. She was like, I think you really want to come in and speak to me a little bit more. And I said, yes, I actually do.
I love that, and it's true. I do the same, right? I have, and I think many therapists have, a 10 or 15-minute consult to make sure it feels like a safe place to explore a therapeutic relationship. And you can't necessarily know that even with a picture and some words. So I love that you had that.
Yes, like that's how I was able to say, weed her out against the herd of people. I was like, okay, I'm narrowing down. I'm just like, okay, let's pin here, let's set an appointment and let's do the thing. So
Yeah.
it was a good time, but it was a good experience because I love those who actually had that 15 minutes that allowed me to see if this was a fit too, because they're interested to see if you a fit. Like they're gonna assess you back and be like, okay, maybe not, maybe you probably need to go see somebody else. And I
Yeah.
love their feedback. Some of them give really good feedback to just give you
Yeah.
a taste of what they can provide for you.
Yeah.
And then some of them, they'll tell you like, my books is closed. But I think just with anything, you want to take a little bit of inventory because this person is going to get to know you in a very intimate setting and space that you never held for people who actually know you.
I'm Isn't that so true? I even feel that, right? As a therapist, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that is a version of me. I do not always feel comfortable showing my world. And that's the beautiful thing of having that space to do it. Anyway, I put my hand on my heart because I feel like, the value of that to be seen and to have safe space and why it matters that it's a good fit. Because I have also worked, so sad, but with people who have not been properly and safely held space for. And that's not okay either, right? So you got to kind of like put out your vibes and feelers to be like, do I think this person has the approach that's going to be right for me? It matters.
Right, it does. What are some signs for burnout, depression, anxiety, and or emotional fatigue? Sorry, that was loaded.
What are signs? Like, how do I know if I'm experiencing any of those?
One of the three. Or we can skip on to another question if you want to answer that one.
No. I love them. I mean, okay. So burnout, depression, fatigue, right? They are all ways of, I believe, talking about, in some way, something similar, which is I've been pushing really hard and not getting enough support, not getting enough, whether that's self care, space, self recognition, time, downtime. Like it can be very physical, it can be emotional and interpersonal. Um, but symptoms can be everything from physical pain, exhaustion. I talk about depression like carrying around this huge hunk of cement that just won't leave you. It's like on your chest or it's on your shoulders, and everything feels hard and everything feels heavy and everything feels like so much effort. That's an example of one way of thinking of that experience. I also, for me, I'm just pausing because I'm thinking, you know, for me, burnout has looked like herniated discs at a time where I didn't know how to stop and slow down. I literally started having a disc issue where I could not get out of bed. I could not physically stand to leave my bed. And it was because for years at that time, I had been thinking that I had to keep pushing. I couldn't pause. I couldn't say no. I couldn't give myself time or space. And my body was pissed at me about it. And it started to tell me it was, so it can be very physical. I think mentally, not feeling our resiliency, not feeling our capacity, negative self talk, like you and I have, we're started to, something happens and instead of going, oh shit, I like the whole world implodes. And all of a sudden I'm, unable to keep going through my day. These are all symptoms that you may be, struggling with some of these, elements of burnout or depression.
I loved how you said that. It could be a body sensation when your body shuts down, especially in society where they tell us, hustle, hustle, hustle. You got to keep going. You got to keep moving. The next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Yes, yes, yes. We're moving, darling.
Yeah.
We're doing all that movement. And then you feeling a little bit tired and you ain't have no self care Saturday. What's going on? You know?
I am.
it's a bit.
I do. I do. And like, damn, right? Like sometimes it's not about doing more and having more and grinding more. Sometimes it's the freedom and permission to say, no, thanks. I'm good here right now. I'm just going to take a breath. And that's where the potential lies. That's actually where, you talk about becoming. And it's like that sometimes is part of the experience of creating enough space for ourselves where we can actually become who we are. It's wild.
Right. You got to give yourself that space to take a break and make mistakes and feel rejection, feel heartbreak, and sit in that and just say, you know what, today I decide to do nothing with it. It's just going to sit there.
Mhm,
Hello.
mhm.
Sometimes you just got to sit down and welcome the emotions. Like, I see you, friend. You need a cup of tea. Okay.
Mhm.
Like,
I
it's a bit.
Absolutely. I always I talk about putting them in your passenger seat of your car, right? It's like, oh fuck, hi anger, I see you. Welcome. All right. Here you are. And having a relationship with those elements of ourselves so that we don't feel they drown us, but we learn to be with them. That's a hard practice, but a super powerful one.
Listen, this is why we have those reflection questions on my Substack, okay? Because we going to get you tight and right. We going to have a mind shift and some questions. This will help you get it all together. What is one thing you think we should stop saying about mental health? Because it actually does more harm than good.
I have a few different things I'm thinking as you talk about it. I think, and I don't know if this is going to come out right, but I think that it's not really spoken about directly, but I feel as though there's a big undertone that if you are struggling with mental health, that's in opposition to being enough or to performing or having success in some way that like a broken foot, like my foot's broken so I can't run. Oh, I'm struggling with my mental health so I can't. And yes, sometimes we can't, but as a blanket statement, we can be who we are and have struggles and be okay and survive and sometimes thrive, that it doesn't have to be the thing we decide or society tells us has to hold us back. That's what was coming to mind when you first said it.
What was the best advice you ever received about wellness and who gave it to you?
Mhm. Thinking of all the teachers, all the places I've learned along the way. I don't have one. And I think my instinct is to say, like, my experiences of nature, not a person. That, some of my biggest wisdom about life and being human, I have learned through my experience of watching nature and how it is always changing and it doesn't I love the idea of like water flowing down a river. It hits rocks and it doesn't stop. It finds a way around it, moves, it's adaptive, it's resilient. And I think our wellness, if we approach it that way, um, can be so incredibly beautiful and powerful.
That's amazing. I love that answer. I love that response a lot. What's something you do for your own well being that might surprise listeners?
uh Full disclosure, it's gotten a bit into luxury self-care, but I I I started cold plunging, and like serious cold, like -1, 0 degree, like 34 or whatever it is Fahrenheit. So I started using cold water therapy for anxiety because in my late 20s and early 30s, I had a lot of shit with a really bad relationship, an abusive relationship, and my nervous system in surviving it and in leaving it in the choices I made. My nervous system let me know it wasn't happy. And I started exploring all sorts of anxiety support. And one of them that I came across was cold exposure, a way of kind of resetting our nervous system or working with our nervous system. And now, over a decade later, I have a cold plunge in my backyard and I go in it every single day, even when it's -16 outside. Yeah.
Good for
So that's
you.
yeah, I love it. It's and I post about it too on my Instagram page because it surprises people. They don't always think of it. Not everyone's like self care. I'm going to go sit in ice water for a minute. But I love it. And it has taught me so much about my strengths, my resiliency, that I can trust myself, that I can do hard things. Like the mental benefits beyond the physical have been really cool.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Um, if it's not too personal, you mentioned about a relationship that was abusive. You,
Yeah.
as the expert who has this wonderful background, who are seeing clients and you are empowering women all over the world, right? How, and
How
I'm
the
not
hell did it
blaming you.
happen?
Yes, I'm not blaming you. And I hate this. Yeah, thank you. I'm not blaming you at all. But how did that come to be?
Yeah.
Is the better word, is the better
Yeah.
phrase.
After many years of therapy and reflection, I could probably say in retrospect that I thought that being empathic, seeing people's, faults and struggles, um, trumped my own boundaries and needs. And that if I was to have a strong boundary and say, that doesn't work for me, or you don't work for me, or that's not okay for me, that I was not being loving or not being other parts of myself, like empathic and caring, that I really held close as part of my identity. I didn't realize that you can be caring and boundaried, not at that stage of my life, or not yet.
I do understand that. I loved how you mentioned about you tie your identity to this. I'm this strong person. I'm a caregiver. I'm an empath. Those are all part of your identity, and you will give up certain things, which was the boundary part. Can you just speak to women who are going through that, who is wearing the trope of a strong woman?
Yeah, that allowing ourselves to to be strong and take support, to be loving but have self-value and boundaries to assert it, that it doesn't have to be one or the other. We get to be all the things, and it's moment to moment which part of me best serves this experience or this circumstance. I can be a strong woman, I can get lots done, and in the circumstance where support and love and nurturing that is safe and available to me exists, I can also take it. I'm not losing my strength in moments where I ask to be vulnerable. One doesn't exist at the cost of the other. They're all in you all the time.
It's really hard for us as women, especially with society, with the pressures of, women have seated essentially past men. And that's something that we're carrying the burden of. How dare you succeed past this, right? How
Yeah.
dare you use your money or your influence and then try to parade it around? Like you're supposed to be a woman. Shouldn't you be meek? Shouldn't you be quiet? Shouldn't you be a nurturer?
Yeah.
It's all these other labels that we can't have this freedom of autonomy within ourselves to just be. And you showed us this way of masculinity. You showed us this way of this is how we should show up and we should present these attributes because this makes me worthy. You showed me
Yeah.
that. And now you want to scold me for this. And now I have to go and sit and pay someone because this is how you showed me. And now I got to go unpack this thing.
I know.
Was that too
It's
heavy?
No, it's not heavy. It's so true. It's what do we do with it, and how do we, as you say, unpack it to find not the version of me that I think the world wants to see or needs to see, but who I organically feel like. And I love the fluidity of it, because there are moments where I am in, I don't know, I don't even like necessarily, but my masculine energy, and get out of my way. I'm like, I'm coming through. And then there are times where I need to be soft, and I don't need to feel that if I need access to that masculine energy again, it somehow doesn't exist. No, it's all in me, right? It's just moment to moment. Where am I at right now? And what do I need? And what makes sense? And when we feel that, as I do this thing, right? When we feel that fluidity, we can be it all, and I love the saying, right? You can be everything, just not all at the same time.
And I love that. Like it has become such a overwhelming place. And also, it feels like a battlefield for women. For so long, we had to depend on men. Up until 1970, they were still getting a man's permission for a bank account,
Huh?
And education was something that we used to enhance ourselves, to empower ourselves, to feel that we were worthy other than the role of a mother. And it's
Hmm.
great. A mother job is wonderful. She brought
Hmm.
life into this world. She doesn't get enough credit. One, two,
Absolutely.
that needs to be a compensation, okay? Because hold on, that's a job.
It
Okay.
is.
Oh yeah. I I love I saw this meme once that you carry these little things and oh my God, I loved it so much. It was this woman and she had all her kids in the background and she was like, God, please let me be a tree in the next life. And I just giggled because I was like, yeah, mothering is hard work. It is a full-time commitment to another being or beings. And you're right. Like we worked to get the privilege to be these other versions of ourselves. And I think as women, you know, at least I feel that, how to balance all the versions of myself that I've now understood I could be, been told I need to be. It's a hard juggle. It's like, oh shit, who needs to show up? Do you need me to be soft right now or do you need me to be a baller? And like, how do you do that moment to moment? It's hard.
Right. We got to juggle your emotions and mine. Like, where's the balance? I thought this was equal partnership. Already, I feel like I'm above. Okay, what's happening? I'm doing 75, you're doing 25. What's going on? Let's reevaluate this right now. We need to talk to the people. Who are the people? So what are the people?
Absolutely. And that's back to boundaries, right? Is figuring out how do I understand where I end and you begin and give myself the courage and the privilege to be me irrespective of necessarily what's happening for you or what you see in me. And that's one of the biggest resistances to change is if I change, if I evolve, if something different in me has room to grow, how are the people that know me going to be affected or how are they going to see me or is that going to work for them? That's what I experience as a therapist is at the base of a lot of resistance is what's going to happen to the people around me if I become dot dot dot.
So how would you handle that if a client came in and said, "Hey, I want to be dot dot dot, and I'm not sure how to bring this to my partner because he might react this way, or I'm afraid of his reaction."
Hmm. I think it's okay to have uh, conversations with partners, family members, whoever that says, hey, I just want to let you know this is something that I want for myself. This is something I feel called to within me. You know, how's that going to feel for you? And that might be, a woman going back to work and maybe one person in a partnership wanting to do a career change. It can be so many different things, right? And then having the space to say, I'm not just going to start doing it and hope that you don't mind what you're seeing that's different and that's unfamiliar, but it's helping give our partner permission to talk about what might scare them in that, right? And then to give them and to together in a relationship have the trust and the support to communicate about it. Right? I'm scared if you start traveling all the time, you're going to forget about me and not love me. Okay, well, I don't think that's how I'm going to feel. And can we talk about it as I go through these changes so that we stay connected and, both feel understood in what's happening?
Dr. Kristen, just drop all your information because listen, they need to come sign out with you, okay? What's going on? She
I'm
hitting
create
she passing all my little checks I would be doing to somebody. Okay, y'all better catch the tea.
I'll keep you posted when I start getting my digital content workshops out in 2026. There are a few of them on the roster that I'm going to be generating out, and people can access them to get more support in some of these areas because I think it's so important.
Oh, can you just speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, one of the reasons that I finally went on social media like a dinosaur and started an Instagram page is because I know that there are barriers to access for self care and for therapeutic, expertise that not everyone can do one on one work. And there are elements of self reflection, self growth, change, behavior, understanding, and practice and skill development that I do believe can be available in other ways, in workshops. And so that's my 2026 sort of rollout is creating some digital content, some workshops on change, on relationship with self, on self-identity that I can help people, gain some of the benefits of stuff like what we're talking about today.
Saying, I love that. So I'm just going to end with this little fun thing. If you could invent a women's wellness holiday, what would it celebrate?
Uh, I is as you were talking, all that came to my mind is just because day. Because you exist that this day I'm fucking here and this is the holiday. I love it. Just because. That's my holiday if I could invent one.
Oh, just because. I love that you said that because actually that's one of my episodes. Episode 2 is just because. Because sometimes you need to have just because it's the moment. It don't need an explanation. It's just because.
Absolutely. And that's that woman stuff about permission. Is this bad enough for me to feel this? Is this hard enough for me to take a break? Have I worked enough to deserve a pause? Nah, just because it's happening is why it's okay. And I love that.
Well, here on Just a Thought, we always end with a question to the audience. So, what would be your one reflective question that you would ask the audience?
If you're feeling stuck in some area of your life or there's a struggle that you're having, a tough time navigating, a reflective question I really like is if this was happening to someone I really love, my best friend or someone I really care about, if I'm watching it in the life of someone else, what do I notice? What do I see? What's my perspective on it? What's my reflection for them? It's a cool way of looking at your life or a circumstance with a different lens that can be really unlocking to new potential.
I love that. Listen, Dr. Kristen, I hate to see you go because we could talk. I can feel it. Like we are matched. Okay. Thank you so
Amazing.
much.
Yes,
Where
and I
can where
love
can we find you?
you can you can find me in very cold Toronto, Canada, but you can find me on Instagram at Thrive with Kristen. So Thrive with Kristen. I post a ton of content that is valuable and useful. You can go on my website, KristinHeins.com, and learn a bit more about me. And you and I can keep growing and evolving to offer women amazing content together. And maybe that will be another place you can find me in the future.